The RMS Titanic, a marvel of its time, was deemed unsinkable. Yet it rests at the bottom of the North Atlantic Ocean. Born out of an era of grandeur and opulence, the Titanic was a testament to human ingenuity. A titan of the seas, it was the largest ship of its time, a floating palace unparalleled in scale and luxury. Imagine the splendor of its grand staircase, the elegance of its first-class suites, and the comfort of its accommodations for passengers of all classes. The Titanic was more than just a ship. It was a symbol of the heights humanity could reach when unfettered by limitations. Yet with all its magnificence and perceived invulnerability, the Titanic was on a collision course with destiny. On its maiden voyage from Southampton to New York City, the Titanic met a fate no one could have predicted. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic set sail with over 2,200 passengers and crew aboard. The departure was met with an air of palpable excitement and anticipation. This was not just a voyage, it was a symbol of human achievement, the largest ship ever built, setting sail on her maiden voyage. The passenger list was a microcosm of the early 20th century society, a diverse tapestry woven from various strands of humanity. From the opulent first-class cabins housed some of the wealthiest people of the era, millionaires, captains of industry, high-ranking officials, and celebrities of the day. They were drawn by the allure of the Titanic, a floating palace that promised the pinnacle of luxury and comfort. In stark contrast, the third class, or steerage, was filled with emigrants. They were people from all over Europe, seeking a fresh start, chasing the American dream, a new life in the land of opportunities. Their cabins were modest, but their hopes were high as the towering funnels of the Titanic. The Titanic was more than just a ship. It was a city at sea, a microcosm of society, floating towards a future that seemed as bright and promising as the gleaming hull of the ship itself. As the Titanic sailed into the open sea, none aboard could foresee the impending disaster. Despite the calm seas and clear skies, danger lurked beneath the surface. As the Titanic journeyed confidently through the icy expanse of the North Atlantic, a series of iceberg warnings began to trickle in. These advisories, dispatched from other ships sharing the same waters, served as a chilling testament to the unseen threats that lay ahead. Titanic's cutting-edge Marconi wireless system buzzed with messages of treacherous ice formations. The first warning came in the morning from the Coronia, a British passenger ship, relaying reports of large icebergs in the Titanic's path. This was followed by several more throughout the day from ships like the Baltic, the America, and the Californian, each one painting a foreboding picture of the waters ahead. However, not all iceberg warnings made their way to the ship's bridge. The Titanic's wireless operators, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride, were not crew members, but employees of the Marconi Company. Their primary responsibility was to handle passenger messages, and iceberg warnings were considered secondary. As the day wore on and the wireless traffic increased, several crucial iceberg warnings were set aside, lost in the flurry of incoming and outgoing messages. This oversight, coupled with the belief that the Titanic was unsinkable, created a false sense of security among the crew. The ship continued to steam ahead at near full speed, slicing through the frigid waters under a blanket of stars. The warnings, ignored or overlooked, served as the hushed whispers of a tragedy waiting to unfold. The Titanic, with over 2,000 souls on board, was heading full speed into a field of icebergs. Unbeknownst to her captain and crew, she was on a collision course with destiny. At 11:40 p.m. on April 14th, the Titanic's fate was sealed. The night was calm and the sea still, but an unseen enemy lurked beneath the surface, an iceberg. As the Titanic steamed ahead, the iceberg scratched along the starboard side of the colossal ship. The collision was not a head-on crash, but a glancing blow. The iceberg's jagged underwater spur slicing open the Titanic's hull like a can opener. The iceberg did not leave a gaping hole, but rather a series of punctures spanning around 300 feet, approximately a quarter of the ship's length. The first 5 watertight compartments began to flood. Each was designed to hold water in case of such a disaster, but they were not sealed at the top. As one filled, it overflowed into the next and the next. The ship was designed to stay afloat with 4 compartments flooded, but 5 proved too many. The ship's crew initially underestimated the severity of the situation. The collision felt more like a shudder than a crash, a slight vibration that could easily be mistaken for the ship's engines working. Yet, as water began to pour into the lower decks, reality set in. The Titanic was sinking. The ship's architect, Thomas Andrews, was on board that fateful night. After a quick inspection of the damage, he delivered the grim news to the captain. The Titanic was doomed. Despite the ship's state-of-the-art design and safety features, it couldn't withstand the damage inflicted by the iceberg. The ship that was deemed unsinkable was, in fact, sinking, and fast. The crew was left to grapple with the horrifying reality. They had to accept that the Titanic, an emblem of human ingenuity and pride, was meeting its end on its maiden voyage. The impossible was happening, and time was running out. In less than 3 hours, the unsinkable Titanic would be lost. The iceberg collision, initially dismissed as a minor incident, had set in motion one of the most tragic maritime disasters in history. As the Titanic began to sink, chaos and confusion ensued. With the clock ticking, it became evident that there were not enough lifeboats on board to accommodate everyone. This was a grave oversight, a miscalculation that would echo through the ages. The ship, heralded as unsinkable, was indeed sinking, and the lifeboats designed to ferry passengers to safety were sorely inadequate in number. The evacuation was far from orderly. The crew, many poorly trained and unprepared, struggled to maintain control. Panic began to set in. The women and children first policy was hastily implemented, but even then, the lifeboats were not filled to capacity. Many were launched half-empty, a tragic waste of precious space that could have saved more lives. A stark social divide emerged amidst the pandemonium. First-class passengers were given priority, while those in third class were left to fend for themselves. This unequal treatment of passengers was a dark mark on the tragedy, contributing to the staggering loss of over 1,500 lives. But amidst the chaos, a beacon of hope emerged. The RMS Carpathia, having received the Titanic's distress signals, raced through the icy waters to rescue the survivors. Their efforts were nothing short of heroic. They managed to save 710 people, a glimmer of humanity in an otherwise bleak scenario. Despite their valiant efforts, the tragedy was immense. The grandeur of the Titanic became a horror-filled memory, the echoes of its maiden voyage reverberating through history. The unsinkable Titanic, a symbol of human ambition and technological prowess, was no match for the unforgiving iceberg. By 2:20 a.m. on April 15th, the Titanic had disappeared beneath the waves. The sinking of the Titanic sent shockwaves around the world. The colossal loss of life, the lack of lifeboats, the mishandling of evacuation procedures, and the apparent disregard for iceberg warnings ignited a firestorm of public outrage. A tragedy of such magnitude was unfathomable, and the world demanded answers. The Titanic was, at its time, the largest ship in the world. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and ambition, but its maiden voyage ended in disaster, becoming a stark reminder of our vulnerability to nature's unpredictable forces and the consequences of our complacency. The aftermath of the disaster led to a profound shift in maritime safety regulations. The world was not content to let the Titanic's victims perish in vain. Their loss had to bring about change. And so it did. In 1914, 2 years after the Titanic met its icy end, the International Convention for the Safety of Life at Sea, or SOLAS, was established. SOLAS set forth comprehensive safety measures for maritime travel. It mandated the number of lifeboats a ship must carry based on its size and passenger capacity. It standardized communication protocols for distress signals, ensuring that warnings would not be ignored or overlooked. It also set guidelines for the safe and orderly evacuation of passengers, aiming to prevent the chaos and confusion that had marred the Titanic's final hours. The Titanic disaster was a turning point in maritime history. It exposed the glaring shortcomings in the existing safety measures and spurred a much-needed overhaul of the maritime safety regulations. The establishment of Solus was a significant step towards ensuring such a catastrophe would never repeat itself. The Titanic's legacy is twofold. It is remembered as a luxurious marvel of human engineering, a testament to our ambition and ingenuity. Yet, it is also a chilling reminder of the power of nature and the fallibility of human arrogance. The Titanic disaster serves as a chilling reminder of the power of nature and the fallibility of human arrogance.